Hi, this is Nut Holloway, aka Fetus. I'll be doing a video showing you how to do Linux for those of you that are beginners or just need a little tutorial on how to go from zero to hero on creating masternodes or maxnodes. So we're going to go over kind of start to finish, how you get that running, the commands you run, just so you feel comfortable with it, and hopefully this will help you out. Thanks. Hi folks, this is Fetus again. We're going to do a video on how to go from zero to hero on Linux. So I know for a lot of you, doing masternodes and maxnodes are something that's can be a little bit challenging. Everybody's good at something. Not everybody knows Linux. So what we want to do here is I want to show you all how to kind of go from having no Linux experience, never run a masternode, never run a maxnode, to being able to install the system, get it up and running, and get it completely configured, secured, and ready to go. And also I'm going to show you how to do masternode and a maxnode on the same server. So good place to start is to go to our GitHub site. So this is on Lytix chain Lytix wiki, Linux install guide. So we go here, go to the wiki, and you come on down here to the Linux install guide. This is going to be a really good place to start. So this kind of gets you going where you need to go, how you need to do it. Now, unfortunately, I don't really show you how to do VPS, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to create one as well. So we're going to step by step on how to do this. Now, I run a lot of my things on Vultr. There's some other providers out there. Just tend to use this one at the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go deploy new server. Let's see, we can do one. Let's do one in Atlanta. We'll do one in Atlanta. You're going to pick the server type. So I typically tend to stick with this one. I'm going to pick 1604 for this one, and I'm just going to pick something kind of cheap and simple. So let's see, we go on here and then we go down a little bit further. Startup script. Okay, I've already got that. Already have a firewall configured, so I'm going to do that as well. So this one's going to be our test Linux 01. So I'm going to go ahead and hit deploy now and make sure I've got everything configured. So I'm just going with something simple, cheap, and going in Atlanta. So we will go down. I don't have any startup scripts because we're going to do it by that. So we're going to hit deploy now. Alright, so that one is going. So it's installing at this point. And yeah, so it's only got about 512 meg, so it's not going to be able to handle a whole lot, but I think for this example we're going to be okay. So you see some of these other ones. Some of these are actually some that seed nodes and some of the web servers. So I don't really have a lot of power going on here. So when you configure yours, you can configure it with not as much for now. Now once we start getting into the API stuff and we start getting a lot of calls from data clients, maybe this is going to change. So but for right now I think you're good. So we're just going to kind of wait here and wait for this to install, and we'll just come back as soon as that is done. Alright, so we got our server ready to go, and as you can see right here is this one. So this one is we're going to copy that. So this is our IP address right here. We're going to use this to SSH into the system. So what you may see here is that sometimes you all may be using Windows, or you may be using a Mac. So if you're using Windows, a good application that I really like, I like this one called Moby Xterm, and what that allows you to also do is it'll open up an accession into the system. So if you want to run GUI applications, you want to run the Linux Qt from the GUI, you can do that. So there's some paid versions, but you can use it for free. and it's pretty robust. If you're on Mac, then you actually have a terminal, so you can go into the applications, utilities, and then you'll find a terminal there, so you can use that. So I natively run Linux on my laptop. It's just the way I like to go. So I've got a terminal up, so I'm ready to go, and I need to SSH into this system. Now, the first thing you want to do is that since this is brand new, we've never used it before, the default when these are set up is that you log in as root. Now, this is not absolutely not something that I ever do on anything. So what we're going to do, we're going to get in first, and we're going to make some changes, add users, and then so that we don't have to do this anymore. So I need to show the password here, and go and copy that. So you've seen it once, it will not be that next time you get in. Alright, so logging in as root. May not be ready yet, so let's see. So I'm going to run -v, and yeah, well, okay, let's go back here. Alright, so just we had some fun stuff there, little technical difficulties, but so I don't, like I said, I don't normally allow SSH in on the normal port, so that I had to add I had to do little things in the background to make things work, So anyway, so we want to SSH. Now I'm doing this, so SSH, right? This is something maybe new to you. So what this actually does is you're going to be setting up you're going to get like a remote console from that server, but it's also going to be encrypted. So anything that you type in between your terminal and then that terminal is going to be completely encrypted from end to end. So you have a good sense of privacy. SSH is also great because you can copy files between one or the other. You can run commands from one system to another one. It's great. It's a fantastic utility. So as you start to learn more about Unix and Linux, then you can learn the different things about SSH. So you can do a lot of automation using it, which is great. So yeah, so I typed in, so I got SSH root at, and then there's the IP address that I have. -v means verbose, so if it hangs or something, you can kind of see like where it's hanging. And then I'm doing -p, so I'm using a different port. So I'm using 5515 for this port, just because I don't like to run SSH on the typical port. And they talk about security, through obfuscation doesn't work, but I can tell you that not having SSH on the same port that everything else in the world runs will keep you from getting scanned about 1,000 times a day on SSH, bots that are trying to find vulnerabilities. So I'll show you how to change that, and it's honestly I recommend it that you don't run this on that port, because if somebody gets in through SSH, they can own that system and they can do what they want to do. So anyway, so I'm going to hit enter, and then at the bottom, this is where you're doing the key exchange. So I know that this key is coming from that system, so I'm going to type in yes. Okay, now I have my password that I had from the other place. So oops, I typed it in wrong, so let me go back here and go back to that server. I'm going to copy that password, and I'm going to hit shift insert, and of course it doesn't work. Try that. No, didn't like it. Alright, so let's do it old school. Let's type it in. Alright, so let's type this in. Alright, there we go. Thank God I typed it in right. Okay, so here we are. We're on the system. I'm going to pull up that install guide because there's some stuff that's already in here. So first thing you're going to do, right, is you're going to change your init root. You need to change that password, right? So I'm going to change it. I'm typing in password. I'm as root. So when you type in password, it's going to change the password of the user that you're actually in. So I'm going to type in password, and I'm going to type in my new password, which you don't need to know. Passwords don't match because it's midnight, and I suck at typing. So anyway, all right, that's done. So let's start off with. So we've already changed the password. Let's go in and make sure our SSH stuff is taken care of. So the SSH file is in etc sshd config. Alright, so as you can see here, right, so that port was 5515. Normally it's going to be 22. So I've changed that to that port, and I also want to go down to, so if you can see, I'm using VI. When you're first starting out with Linux, you may want to use like Nano or another type of utility that you can use to edit files. I've been using Unix and Linux for a really long time, and that kind of started out using VI. So for me, VI is just it's easy for me to do a lot of things in it. So code in it, I do things on servers with it. I'm just used to it. So what I want to do, I'm hitting my arrow keys now, so I'm going to permit root login. This is what you do want to change. So let's go ahead, before we even do any of that, let's get a new user out there, right? So I'm going to user add. Let's see, user add Lytix. Okay, group add Lytix. Probably already there, right? So I'm going to make there home Lytix, and so I'm going to do password for Lytix. So I'm going to set the password for Lytix, the user. So what I'm doing is actually creating a user. There's probably some easier ways to do this. I'm going to go into etc password, and this is where actually all the password, kind of the stuff is kind of set. So as you can see, I've got the user here. It has user ID and group ID of this. This home is this. I'd actually like to give it a shell. So let's do that. So bin bash, I'm going to have that as a shell. Make sure I got that right. So I type it in wish, so I'm actually typing in where the commands are. So bash is actually the shell, which contains a lot of it's kind of like how you interact with the Unix system itself. So I've got bin bash, so I have that user. So what I can do is su dash as Lytix. So su dash means to do as the user, and dash, when you put that in, that means you're going to take all the users. Oops, you know what? Forgot to do. Lytix doesn't really have any permissions on that folder that we just created. So let's do that. So I'm going to chown, which means I'm going to change ownership of that file in a directory to Lytix user at Lytix group at home Lytix. So now it owns it, so which is good, right? It's kind of good to be able to own the place that you have a home. So I'm going to change user as Lytix, and now I'm Lytix. So I'm here. PWD ls means to show what's in there. PWD shows like where's your present working directory. That's in home Lytix, so that works. So let's go edit that SSH file. Alright, so like I said, I've already changed the port. That's good. I want to make sure that root cannot log back in. So I'm going to change this. So I'm going to hit CW, and I'm going to type in NO. I'm going to type in escape, and that gets me out of insert mode. And I think we're kind of good on most everything else in here. And I hit this, and then X means to write it, save it and write it. Now that's done. Now I want to restart my SSH to take effect of the new settings, right? So service SSH restart, and this is how any service that you have on Ubuntu or Ubuntu or any of these similar type of OSs that they run as certain, you have certain things that will run as a service server, certain daemon. So I want to restart this one. This is done. Now root won't be able to log back in, which is good. So what we want to do as well is add Lytix into the ability to be able to sudo, right? So you could do su dash, and that would put you in as root. However, you need to type in the password. It doesn't log everything. Sudo is a little bit better. It's a better version that it will allow you to do things as root, right? And it will log what exactly happened. So that's something you want to do. So you type in vsudo, and that will open up. Gosh. So now I'm in nano, and see, I'm kind of like lost with it. Alright, so allow members of this group to execute any command. So we're going to put in, alright, so this is user privilege. So you're going to put in Lytix, and you can copy and paste all. And we're going to Control X, and I want to save it. Okay, I've saved it, and there it is. Okay, so let's do that. Let's sus is Lytix, and let's test that. And we're going to do sudo su dash, and I have to type in the password for Lytix, and then there, that works. Okay, good. So that's good. So now we can kind of get rolling, right? So we've we changed SSH, we changed the password, you changed the root password. Now we're not going to allow root to log in. So next time you log in, you're going to have to log in as this user Lytix. So the thing is that you don't want to really do any of these things as root unless you absolutely have to. So maybe updating the system or any of these other things, which, you know what, that's actually a good thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go on another system, and kind of the habit that I have is I like to create kind of like an update script, and so that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to be as root. Alright, so I'm going to create a file called update.sh, and I'm going to tap I for insert, and I'm going to copy and paste that in there, and I'm going to hit escape X. I'm going to save that. Now to make this executable, you can do chmod plus X, and so this is changing permissions on the file. So I'm going to change that. Alright, so we have update. So what I'm going to do here is, this is kind of something that I do with like all my Linux systems, is what I like to do is kind of have kind of like a script that runs through, and so I can call this remotely, and I can have these systems updated. So I can put all the systems kind of like one script and run it. I update everything, and then I need to know when I need to reboot and whatnot like that. So this is for me, I love doing this. I do it on every system I have. It kind of keeps things up to date, running well, and you know what I mean. So I'm gonna run this. So now it's gonna go and update. So it's updating all of the sources that it's gonna pull the packages from. It updates all the packages automatically. It's going to upgrade now. I mean, if you have some systems that you have some things that require certain packages, then maybe you have to be careful about how you do this. But we're going to be just kind of running this as a Lytix server. So you don't really, you're not really any fault. You don't really need a whole lot of things on here to keep that going. So it's just best to keep it running and doing its thing here. So once it gets done and upgrading, and some of the errors are okay, not a big deal. It's going to get rid of the package it doesn't need once it gets to that point. So yeah, so this is a good thing to do. I mean, you should keep your systems updated. You know, at least once a week for sure. It's just a good habit to be in. Sometimes, you know, sometimes these will require a reboot, and sometimes they make some changes where you actually have to enter things on the console. So that's occasionally when they make some changes to stuff. So it is still updating and whatnot. And sometimes it does take a little time when it's the first time you've done this on a new system. Like I said, this is just kind of alright, so that's done. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and reboot it, because I guarantee you that most of these settings, I have new kernel stuff in here, it's going to need to be rebooted. So we're going to reboot that. It shouldn't take but maybe a minute or two for it to come back up, and then we're going to start kind of getting it updated and ready to go for Lytix install. Now, like I said, you cannot log in as root anymore. Actually, let's test that, and let's type in our new root password. Yes, and that says no, you can't do it. So let's Control C to get out of that, and let's do it the right way now. And I'm going to log in as Lytix. Like I said, you can change your username to whatever you want. I just tend to do that with these systems just because you know, it's easier for me to remember that kind of stuff. Okay, so we are up to date. We have our new user. We're running with it. So we are kind of ready to, look at that V171. That is outdated, isn't it? Okay, so I definitely have got to update some of these documents. Alright, so so here we go. So what we ought to do is actually, you know what, we don't need to do this. So we've got that kind of up and running. One of the things you'll have to make sure you do is on your firewall that you use on whatever, you know, platform you have, you know, you want to limit where you can who can access your system on SSH. So if you're going to keep the standard port 22, maybe just have it from your network. Maybe it can pull up your IP. You can go to like what's my IP, and it'll tell you that. So definitely kind of lock that down a little bit, because really the only person that needs to get into your system is you. The only other ports that you're going to need open if you're running a Lytix server is TCP 27071. That's it. That's the only thing that you need open if you're running a Lytix server. So let's see what we're going to do. Well, we're going to install Lytix. So let's get the best stuff on there. So best thing to do, like I say, just go to the GitHub, Lytix chain. Well, all the releases will always be here. So we're going to get the latest and greatest. Now run down here. We are running 64-bit Linux. So you're going to want to get this. So I'm going to copy this link, and we're going to go back to our thing here, and I'm going to type in wget, get the link, and it's going to pull that down. And there it is. Okay, so we're going to do ls to see what's in there, and that's the only thing in there. So we're going to do a tar zxvf, and we need a space, and Lytix, and then so in a lot of these things too, you can use tab to autocomplete. So you just see, I'm not actually typing in everything. So I can type in something and it'll tab it. And if you tab it a couple times, it'll show you the list of things that may have the same name. So that can kind of help you to do things easier. Alright, so I'm going to do this. What I'm going to do, so this is the tar file is gzipped. So it's basically, you know, a zipped up group of files. So I'm gonna unzip this thing, and that's going to create this this Lytix 2.01 directory. So I'm going to hop in there. So I'm going to cd into that directory, and I'm going to do an ls because I'm curious what's in there. So this is where you have all your binaries. You have the libraries all in here. So now this is kind of an easy, cheesy way that I do it, just like easy. What I'm going to do is I am actually going to copy all of these things. So make sure I'm already in. Make sure you're in that directory, and this is what you see. I'm going to copy these things over to user local. So that what that's going to do is it's going to copy all the files that are in bin, include, and lib, and of course it's going to copy the README. But whatever, who cares? So I'm going to do that. Put in my password, and there we go. So this already all in there. So I can type in which Lytix D, and it's already there. So it's ready to go. So I can go back. So I'm going to go back to the back directory. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create my Lytix directory. So that's by default. Lytix defaults on Linux to whatever the home directory of that user is as a .lytix. And so I'm going to cd into this, and I'm going to create my lytix.conf file. And let's see, let's go back to our wiki, because let's do things easy. Alright, so what we have here, so one of the things you'll want to do, right, because you're running a server, you don't want to have the terminal open, you don't want to have all that open, you want to just be able to run it and forget about it, right? So two of the things you can do is type in server and daemon equals 1, and what that'll do is that'll run the server when you run it, and you won't need to babysit it or anything. It'll just be running in the background like it should. Alright, so I'm going to type in I for insert. I'm going to copy this in here. I'm typing in shift insert, escape X. Alright, so that's that, and I'm going to type in Lytix D, and it's off and running. Right, so that was kind of it. I mean, that's it. That's all you need to do to get the server up and running and ready to go and doing its thing. So you can. There's another thing to do too, right? So in the Lytix directory, let's do ls. You're going to have all these different files in here and what you need. So the debug log is kind of the log where it throws everything into it. Pretty much errors, any kind of thing like that. So that log file can be very useful for you to maybe see if something's going on. You're going to really need this when you do a masternode or a maxnode to make sure that it actually has activated. So we can tail this. Tail.f will tell you, if you tail it, means I want to see the last thing that's happening in that log, and -f means to whatever shows in that log, show it up on the screen. And I'm going to do that. So you can see it is pretty busy pulling in every single block that's been in existence. So we're up to just about 300,000, so this is actually moving pretty quickly. Sometimes on slower systems it can take a little bit longer. So I'm going to hit Control C to stop that and let that go. And what we're going to do is we're going to pause it for a second, then we're going to come right back, and so we can I can show you how to do a masternode and a maxnode at the same time on the same system, and we will show that in just a second. Alright, so we're all caught up and ready to go. I forgot that we're actually working in testnet. So I don't have that many blocks to sync up. So we're ready to go on this one. It's synced up. We're good to go on this part. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a masternode and we're going to create a maxnode at the same time. So we're going to stretch it a little bit here. But like I said, once you've done this once or twice, you will get the hang of it. And like I said, we have documentation for you. We're always there for help. So if you ever get bogged down, you're not sure, just hit us up in Discord or on Telegram, and we'll be there to help you out. Okay, So we Linux, our VPS is ready to go. We have our client that's ready to go. So this is going to be this client right here is going to be sitting on. This is actually going to be sitting on your Windows box or wherever you have your mad stash of millions of coins, right? So we're going to go ahead and create get that going. So we're going to do maxnode gen key. We're going to create our key for the maxnode. We're going to do masternode gen key. All right, and we're going to get our account address to send our monies to our test maxnode 01, and we're going to just move up and do our masternode 01. Okay, so we've got our keys, and we have our addresses, and looks like we have got enough money to send this off. So a max node you need 100,000 Lytix, a master node you need 5,000. So let's go ahead and do this now. What you can do, all right, so one of the things that you can do is you can send, all right, so let's see here. So what I'm going to do is create an address, get account address. I'm going to call it wallet, and what I'm going to do is send a fair amount of money to this address, and then this is going to be where I'm going to send, when you do a send many, which is what we're going to use to send it to multiple addresses at the same time, you need to send it from a particular wallet. So what you want to do is make sure that that wallet has got a lot of the funds that it has all the funds that you're going to need to send it. So I'm going to send 300,000 to this address, and there's that. And unfortunately we're going to have a couple of those. Actually, you know what, we're not going to have any of those pop-ups because we prepared ahead of time, and we're going to do it over here. It's at generate true 2. Can't connect the server. Well, that's because it's in testnet, right? So I'm doing this in testnet. Things are always a little different. So it's generating some blocks here, and we can check that payment to yourself is already being cleared. Alright, so we can turn this a little off. There we go. Okay. Alright, so wallet is now cleared, so it's got plenty of money in it. So what we can do now is we can send the big max money over to for the master node and the max node, and do it in one fell swoop. So we're going to type in send many, and we're going to put in our wallet. Right, so this is, remember I called it wallet, so I'm going to put it as wallet, and that has to be in quotes. And so now the syntax is a little weird, right, because you're working with JSON, so it needs to have some things escaped. Some characters need to be escaped for it to understand it. So we're going to type in this, curly Q, and we're going to escape the the quote. And what we're going to do is we're going to get this one. Now this is our max node, right? I'm going to copy that. I have to escape quote. I'm going to do that, and you type in the amount that you're going to send. Now we're going to do our second one, and once again, escape quote. Get the address for the master node, paste that in there, escape quote, that little thing, and 5,000. Okay, so we're doing it to 2. We're good. We can close it up, and there we go. Alright, that's it. So let's get that thing cleared, and that has to be 15 confirmations. So you're going to let that start mining away for a little bit. And in testnet, of course, things run wicked fast because there's nobody else mining. And 14 confirmation, 16, okay, that's all good to go. Okay, so what we're going to do now we've got two things going on, right? We're doing a max node and we're doing a master node. So let's get the max node outputs, and that's going to show, so this is our transaction here, C55, so that's that one. Okay, and our master node outputs is going to show the same thing, but the transaction output ID is 1. So that one's 0, this one's 1. Okay, so let's go and let's start editing our maxnode file. Let's do that one first. And let's see, what did we call it? We called it test maxnode 01. I'm going to copy that. Okay, and our IP address. I'm not familiar with the IP address on this one, so I'm going to type in ifconfig, and it's going to pop up the IP address here, and that's that. So, and of course, yeah, it's not going to copy and paste. So that's kind of the bummers of working sometimes with a Unix systems. Not everything's happy with copy and paste all the time, so I'm going to type it in 155.138.216.17, and like I said, you know, we're working in testnet, so that's a little different, but when you're working in prod, that's your port, right? So remember, that's the only port that you need to have open to your VPS from VPC, sorry, from the outside. So you just use 27071 for that, and then just have that accessible by anybody, and that way you can sync up. People can connect to you as a peer and whatnot. So, but like I said, we're doing testnet, so it is on 27072. Okay, so let's go back over here, and let's get that maxnode key. Copy that over here. All right, get a little space, and then we're going to go back down here to our transaction that we did send to address. Alright, and we're going to put that in, and that's going to be a 0, and then we're going to save this file. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cheat a little bit and just copy that, because we're going to have to do the master node. So let's open up master node. And let's put that in there, and of course it's not called max, it's called master node. Same IP address, same port, which is kind of cool. And let's get that key for the master node. Let's put that in there, get a space, let's go back, and let's get our hash for a transaction. If I can do copy and paste. There we go. And that one, right, master node outputs was a 1. And we're going to save that. That one's good. Okay. Now let's go over to our server over here. Move that over. And we're gonna edit our Lytix file. So like I said, in prod, you're not going to have testnet equals 1, right? You don't need it. Alright, so we're going to put in, alright, maxnode equals 1, and that tells us that it's a maxnode. Maxnode priv key, that means it's a maxnode private key. Just go back up here and get that. Gen key maxnode. Copy that. Put that in there. Alright, so we're going to do master node equals 1, and master node priv key equals, and let's copy that, insert that. Alright, that's ready to go. Now, what do we do? I normally, when I have my VPS, I restart that first. So I'm going to type in Lytix CLI stop. So I want to find out and make sure that that process has stopped. So what I'm going to do is I'm typing in ps-eaf. That shows you the processes. So you're going to look to see, if you type that in, it'll show you every single process that's running on the system. But what I want to do is I'm going to run that system, and I'm going to take the output from that system. That's what the little up little stick there is, and then what I'm going to use to grep means I'm going to look for what comes out of that, and I'm going to look for Lytix D. So so the only process that pulled that up is our grep that was right here. So that means that Lytix D is not running. So I'll show you what that actually looks like when it's running. So that's not running, so we can go ahead and start that, and that's going. So let's run that command one more time, and you'll see the difference, right? So now you see that it's actually running, and you also get the grep command as well. So we're running there, we're good. Let's go ahead and let's restart this one as well, and let's remember where that was. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to pull that back up. Alright, so our payment to ourselves is right here, the 17 confirmation. So let's tail that log file over here. So that's in testnet, so it's going to be in testnet debug. So that one's, well, whoopsies, I goofed. Actually no, we're good. Okay, that's just quiet because nobody's mining and nobody's doing anything. So alright, so it's good to go. So let's go over here to masternodes. Let's click that. Start alias. Yes. Failed to start transaction for masternode blah. Test masternode 01. Could not allocate transaction. Well, that one was a goof. How about this one? Same thing. Okay, well, you know, it's always good when something goes wrong. You can kind of see what happened there. Alright, transaction. Yeah. So you see, grab the wrong transaction ID. So yeah, so you know, just like you, I can make mistakes as well. So let's change this right here to that, and we're going to save that. Okay. Alright, we saved that one, and let's pull open the maxnode, and let's change that transaction as well because we got the wrong one. I ended up selecting the one that we sent to wallet and not the one that we actually sent to the actual maxnode, so in masternode. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to pull that back up, and we're going to try this again. So you know, when things go wrong like that, you just, you know, take a look. You know, it's usually you got the key wrong, the transaction ID wrong. That's usually one of those things. So let's try this one more time. Alright, we're going to click start alias and click yes. Alright, that worked, right? And this is what you want to see, right? In the log file, you're going to see this right here, enabled cold master node. Enabled, you may shut down the cold daemon. So they're talking about this as the cold daemon. And we're good to go there. So that master node is good. Let's get max node going. Start alias. Yes. And there we go. Done. So they're both going. So you know, like if you watch the maxnode one, it runs similar. So masternodes, maxnodes kind of run on they're separate systems, but they're designed kind of the same way. There's the same amount of time that they need to actually be enabled. So it'll take between like 2 to 3 hours for the masternodes and maxnodes to go from active over to enabled. And once they do, then they get kind of in the back of the line. So you will probably get, if you have a max node, you get paid a little bit sooner than you would if you have a master node, because there are a lot less max nodes out there than master nodes. But yeah, they'll get paid on the regular master node. So you just look, maybe it may take about a day or so for you to get that payment. Maxnode should happen within 6-7 hours, at the very, I think, the longest. And then yeah, it's just going to be a set of income that's going to kind of keep coming in. So it's a great system. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed some of the mistakes we made, and show you that everybody can make mistakes. And if you have any questions or anything, just feel free to hit us up on Discord or Telegram. Alright, thanks. Hope you have a good day.